Hey everybody, Jack Carr here. The Terminal List is coming to Amazon Prime Video. That's right, 4th of July weekend, July 1st, all 8 episodes drop at once. The Terminal List stars Chris Pratt as Navy SEAL sniper James Reese, and he absolutely crushes it. So we have Chris Pratt starring. We have David DiGilio as the showrunner, who said this in a recent interview: the biggest movie of the summer is actually an 8-episode streaming series. Awesome. Antoine Fuqua directing, producing. Absolutely incredible cast that includes Constance Wu, that includes Taylor Kitsch, Jean Triplehorn, amazing cast, crew, special operations veterans on set each and every day to make sure that the series stayed rooted in the dark, gritty, primal, authentic foundation of the novel. And I could not be more fired up with how it came out. Amazon was an amazing partner throughout all of this, and I cannot wait for July 1st. So get ready. Things are about to get rowdy.
This is the Danger Close podcast, Beyond the Books with me, Jack Carr.
Welcome to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. My guest today is my friend, Clint Emerson. Clint is a former Navy SEAL, worked in the intelligence community for quite some time, and then got out and started 100 Deadly Skills. Escape the Wolf is another one of his companies. He's got so much going on. His latest book is out now, The Rugged Life, which is right here. And he is also one of the hosts of SAS Australia, which is a huge worldwide hit that I hope will be coming to the United States at some time soon. It started in the UK with SAS Who Dares Wins and has been incredibly successful all over the globe. And Clint was invited to be an instructor on this last season in Australia. We talk about that on the podcast and get to catch up. And I am so honored and humbled that he took the time to come on. So for more on Clint Emerson, go to clintemerson.com. You can follow him on all the social channels from there. For sure, get the book, give it to your kids. This is fantastic, and just love everything that he has going on. So now, without further ado, Clint Emerson. All around the world, it is a huge show, and I wanted to ask you about that because you filmed it during, as we did, during COVID, with COVID restrictions in place, which were interesting. But yeah, you're in that show, SAS Australia, so SAS Who Dares Wins, started, I forget how many years ago, but almost a decade ago now, at least 7 or 8 years, something like that. Like it's been.
Yeah, Ant did the first 8 or 9 seasons in the UK.
Yeah.
With the average Joe could sign up and see if they had what it takes, in a very short, condensed selection course that mirrored the SAS selection, and did really well. And then Ant went ahead and jumped over to Australia, to their from Channel 4 over to Australia's Channel 7, and then stood up one that is celebrities only. And it, and I jumped in on the 3rd or the 4th season. I can't remember which one in Australia. And it was our first year that the show had nominations in 2 different categories to their equivalent of the Emmys. Didn't win anything, but still, it's really cool to be part of something that is that successful. And Ant is the man. I mean, he created all that. He's done a great job spreading it around the world, because now it airs in several countries on several networks. So
yeah, I mean, it's amazing, like worldwide. Like, how do you watch it in the States? I've tried to figure it out a couple times, but I haven't spent the requisite time that I need to figure that. I'm sure there's a way to watch it either on YouTube or its own channel, its own website, or maybe through satellites, or like, how do you watch it in the US?
Yeah, you need a VPN. It's the easiest way. So just download any of the VPNs on your phone, Mac, any of your devices, and then go through your VPN, search Channel 7 SAS, and boom, you'll see all the episodes, I believe, are on the Channel 7 channel online.
Okay. So it's blocked though. If I try to go from my regular US Safari or Firefox or Chrome, it'll be, I won't be able to get to it.
Exactly. No different than your show is only going to be seen in the countries that Amazon made a deal with. Other countries, it'll be restricted when they if someone is trying to watch your show, let's say Thailand, and they click on it, it's going to say regionally restricted. The way around that The way around that with anything is VPN. And if you get a paid VPN, you can actually go in and say, I'm in Thailand. So then they think you're in the country. Then all of a sudden you're allowed to watch everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's wild. Yeah. No, it's, that is interesting how they do that. And I think Amazon, because people keep asking me, can I watch it in Canada? Can I watch it in the UK? Or can I, and same thing with audiobooks. People reach out all the time and like, I can't get your audiobook. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, get a VPN maybe, but I'm like, I don't know if that'll work for them. I don't want to like be, walking them through all the steps. But that's interesting with audiobooks and other books as well. Harder with an actual book, obviously, to get it set somewhere because you have to fill in an address of Ireland or, South Africa or wherever you want it sent to. But watching something or listening to something on an audiobook, I think with the VPN, you can do that. But I think Terminal List is going like worldwide. People sent me something today from Sydney, big advertisement in Sydney, New York. It's all over the place right now. Stockholm. Somebody sent me a picture from Stockholm today. So that's kind of crazy to see it all
so
over the place.
Man.
It's wild. It is absolutely wild.
You're crushing it, Jack.
Man,
it's so fucking cool.
It's crazy. It's crazy. This is it's definitely a show that is not made for your let's say like garden variety stereotypical LA or New York film critic. It's made for everybody else. That's kind of how I'm framing it in my mind. Some of them are not going to like it before they even hit play. They've already decided to hate it. You know what I mean? But I think that's fantastic. That's fantastic because it plays into a lot of the themes in the book and in our lives in general right now. So we'll see, man. We'll see. But how did it work with SAS Australia? So those guys reached out. You say yes. And then you had to quarantine for like a month, right? Did you have to go to a hotel in Australia or something for a few weeks? Yeah.
So it's actually pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. One of the producers hit me up and was like, hey, we want you to we've seen you online. We've seen you do some stuff. We'd love for you to be our token American on the show. And I was like, yeah, all right. So I went and looked it up. I'd never heard of it. So I went and looked it up and saw some of the episodes out of the UK and I was like, all right, because the deal. Like sometimes you get hit up and it could be you just never know, right? What you're getting yourself into. And so, and I never saw myself as like a TV guy. I have really no interest in it, to be honest with you. But and I don't feel like I have the personality for it. And
you do for this show. You certainly do for this show.
Yeah, they were like, no, you'll be fine. I was like, okay, fine, I'll give it a shot. So I fly. It's definitely pandemic. I fly from Dallas to LA to jump on the direct flight to Sydney. And what I didn't know was that I was the only person on that plane, right? So I'm sitting at the new terminal at the gate at LAX. I see the plane sitting out through the window. And I'm waiting for the typical like boarding calls, right? Like first class, business class, blah, 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 all that prep stuff, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my watch and I'm like, what's really going on? Like, what's the deal? And I'm looking over at the gate and there's one lady standing at the podium and nothing. Then I see the walkway retract from the plane and then the plane backs up and leaves. And I'm like, that's weird. So I go over to the lady and I'm like, hey, is there maintenance issues? Why aren't you guys calling this flight? And they're like, are you Clint? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you're the only one that was supposed to be on that flight. You just missed it. So I was like, oh, maybe I should have asked about this earlier. So the entire plane was for me, right? And it took the Australian government to approve it. So now I'm like, oh no. So I call the producer and I'm like, hey, so that plane I was supposed to be on, I literally watched it fly away. And she's like, you gotta be kidding me. And then that's when she educated me. Like, we had to get approval for that flight to come in. You were supposed to be the only one on it. And I'm sitting there going, are you kidding me? Really? And so I waited in LA for 4 more days to get reapproval for a new flight.
With just you on it?
Just me.
They sent 2. Oh my. It seems like, in your defense, it seems like that would have been a good thing to give you a heads up on ahead of time. Like, hey, just so you know, you're the only person on this flight. So, like a couple little heads up might have been appropriate.
I'm sitting there, it's a 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock flight at night. I I got my coffee, I'm ready, but it never crossed my mind that that's how restrictive they were though. I mean, we all heard about it here in the States. Like they had 500 cases and they locked the whole country down for months. Right.
Yeah.
And so the flights, they weren't letting anyone on it. And so unbeknownst to me, obviously 4 days later, plane pulls up. Of course, I'm on it and it's just me in first class. It's the current crew and then it's the turnaround crew on the plane. That's it. And so
are they like, who are you? Do they know? Are they like asking you, or are they, you're like, who do they think you are? Oh, they knew.
They knew that I was like the new DS on this show. And
what is DS? Like a drill? What does DS stand for?
Direct staff.
Okay.
That's what the SAS calls their, buds instructors.
Okay.
So they all kind of knew. And
were they fans of the show?
What's that?
Were they fans of the show? Did they like know about it? Was anybody like
some of them? Yeah, some of them actually knew about it. They all knew who Ant was. It was all new to me. So we land in Sydney. Everybody is dressed like something out of ET with their chem bio suits on. I'm the only guy
Good reference.
Walking through the only guy with a police escort through the airport. Get through customs. They throw me in a car, police escort to a hotel, police escort to my room. And then they put me in this apartment and said, okay, you got to stay here for 14 days. And they put a cop outside the door 24/7.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, holy crap, man, you guys are taking this a little too serious. But,
wow.
And then 14 days later, you test. I got out. They escorted me straight to the set. And then the next day we started filming. You went 15 days straight. Each day is an episode. Put me on a plane, sent me back to the States.
No way. Yeah. Each day is an episode. No. Yeah. That is pretty efficient. I mean, that's pretty efficient for the film.
It's genius.
Maybe not the, staying in the hotel in the private flight across the Pacific, but the actual filming, that sounds, and who else was on that one with you? Who was on your season?
Okay, so I've got two of the originals, which is Ant Middleton and Ollie Allerton, right? Both of them SBS guys. And then me and Stotty, Dean Stott.
Yeah.
We were the two new guys. And then I was the only token American. And then we had roughly 20 celebrities, very famous folks in Australia, not necessarily that we would have heard of here. Right. But you're talking Olympic athletes, professional rugby, or professional soccer, reality stars over there.
Yeah.
And then the games begin. And what's really cool about that, what I really enjoyed about that show is it's a course first and a TV show second. So it is truly the four of us running these 20 people with zero interference from a production crew. Nothing. You don't even see camera dudes or audio dudes. They're always hidden. So it's a true experience for the recruits, and it's a true experience for us. And they're 18-hour days where we were running them through the fucking ringer, man. Yeah. I mean, and then by the end there was only three people who completed the course in 14, 15 days. So it's a true selection course being run truly by us with zero interference. They're sleeping in their barracks. We're sleeping next door together. We're all living it for 14 days straight. It's pretty cool.
That is pretty wild. I did a podcast with Dean Stott while he was over there, while he was in quarantine for those couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I had him on during that time frame. But man, that is wild. So you got 14 days, you're locked down, you do this 15 days, one episode a day. And because it's, not on in the US. I hope it does come on here because of all the shows out there. It's, it seems like a natural thing, and I don't know why it hasn't. Maybe, people in, senior level executives in our entertainment industry are a little like, what's the SAS? What's the SBS? Who are these Brits?
Now, rumor has it will be coming on a major network here in the United States pretty soon.
I'm surprised it's taken so long.
You didn't hear that from me, though, everybody.
No, I've heard that rumor. I'm just surprised it's taken so long because of worldwide popularity. Maybe because they're like, oh, a rugby star, a soccer star, like what? So, yeah, I think it would resonate here. But man, what a crazy experience. And,
Yeah,
the
it's
parts
fun.
that I've seen, like the clips on the different guys, the different SAS and SBS guys' Instagrams and, social channels, it looks like there's some emotional, like seriously emotional times and elements that are very naturally occurring as these people go through this course. I mean, what did you see during your time there?
Yeah, it's a genius format. So think of Big Brother,
Yeah.
right? Because you got all these celebrities living together, sleeping on cots and eating lettuce and like ground beef every day.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you've got the survivor element because they're given these outlandish, crazy tasks that they have to do. And we're talking helicopters, jet boats, and shit's blowing up.
It looked dangerous. Like your season in particular that I saw looked dangerous. And I'm like, ooh, I'm not sure if they would do that in the States, like a couple times.
Yeah, no, and it's the four of us literally running those evolutions from a safety point of view, performance point of view. It's all us and them. And then, but the third element that makes it a winner, no matter where it is and no matter who's in the show, is what I call the Dr. Phil moment, where we pull them in to interrogation. And because they're sleep deprived, the sleep deprivation, and they're getting just worked, it's very easy for them to just, they can't keep that celebrity facade. They just can't keep it. Wow. So they end up breaking down, crying, and revealing their true selves to the audience. And because of these huge highs and adrenaline, and then these lows because of how they're having to live for a very short period of time, when they get in front of us as the DSs now interrogating them, they just break. Nice. And when you put it all together, man, the episodes, I mean, I only watched 2 of them out of the 14 because like, I can't watch myself. This is stupid, but it was, but the show is awesome. I mean, it's an incredibly well edited, well done show, and it's real. I think that's the key takeaway. It's a real experience for everyone, to include us, you know.
Man. And when you do those interrogations, are you guys, it's hard to tell from the clips that I've seen, are you guys all in there, or you get assigned to a single person and it's just one-on-one?
Yeah, we rotate. So there's always 2 of us asking the questions. One guy, so one instructor goes and gets them, puts the bag over their head, and walks them into the interrogation room, sits them in the chair, pulls the bag off their head, and then they're always going to be sitting in front of 2 of the DS. And then we all rotate through those different positions. So it's all equal, you know what I mean? But yeah, and then we usually just kind of go like, what's your deal? You know, like what, there's usually a performance issue that all of them have had. And when you're talking about Olympic athletes and professional athletes, they're not used to not being able to do something. And so they inevitably, every single one of them fail in their own way. And they just don't know how to handle it sometimes. And then that's when they reveal their true selves. And it's, like I said, it's genius. It's a great format that you get to see some crazy adventure, but at the same time, you get to see people just get broken down to their human level. And it's also very interesting. I mean, like some of the stories that those recruits have and that they reveal, they're doing it for the first time. They're doing it on camera, but the way that it's set up, you don't even remember there's cameras around you. It's crazy. Yeah.
Man. And so when you brought those people in there for the interrogation phase and they're sleep deprived and they're hungry and they're tired and they're this incredibly emotional experience and it's bag thrown on their head, essentially they're like, being grabbed off the street in Beirut or something like that. And it's sat down on this chair and their bag torn off and there you are, bam, right in front of them, controlling that room really. Gosh, what was some of the were there any times when someone would leave and go back and you guys would sit down together or just be like, whoa, I can't believe that just happened? Or, like, whoa, man, that was rough. Or I can't, like, what were some of those experiences like?
Some of them, it was hard on our end to remain straight faced and not, you can't help but, let's say like one of them had lost their father, at an early age and she was very emotional about it. And, I lost my dad the day that I got my trident, out in San Diego. And, I'm getting 1 minute, I'm getting my trident. The next minute I'm identifying my dad at the hospital, putting him in a body bag and flying him on American Airlines back to Dallas. So for me, when she started talking about that, it took everything I had not to like fall apart with her. You know what I mean? Because it was like, oh, whoa, this is like hitting close to home. So there were several instances like that. And once again, I think that's like such an important and great part of the show, is because it's just so human, so real. And it definitely left us multiple times. Like when they they put the bag back over their head and they're escorted out of the room, whoever I'm with, we're sitting there just looking at each other like, whoa, like that was tough, or that was hard. But our job is, obviously try to maintain the neutrality in all of it without breaking down and crying with them, or laughing at something they say is actually funny. Yeah. I learned a lot through that, because I had never been in that position before. And then you also, at the same time, with the things that we have experienced with loss, whether it's in the military or with your own family, there was a little bit of connection there, because it's like, wow, I'm not the only one, obviously, that has to deal with this shit, so everyone deals with it in their own way all the time,
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Emotional show. What happened to your dad the day you get your trident?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had, he came out for the trident, and he had, my dad was a motorcycle collector. So he had a 1970 Triumph Trident. He rebuilt and like totally pimped it out for me and put 2 tridents on it. And keep in mind, this is the same type of motorcycle that Evel Knievel used to jump over cars. It's an awesome triple. It makes Harleys sound like Hondas. I mean, it was an awesome bike. He blacked it out, put the tridents on there, put it on the back of the truck, brought it out to me when I was getting my bird. And that morning he went, I lived in downtown San Diego at the time in a condo. And so he left to go get a newspaper at the corner store, and never came back. I mean, this was before cell phones and all that. And I couldn't find him. I mean, I like literally drove all over the freaking place and just couldn't find the guy. And it took hours and hours and hours for the hospital out there to finally get a hold of me through my uncle, and said, "Hey, your dad's at the hospital." I'm like, "Holy, what happened?" And he's like, "I don't know, but I heard him in the background, so just head over there." And so I head over, and at the time, my little brother was with me, and we're 11 years apart. So he was really young. And I had done my paramedic runs in San Diego, when I went through 18 Delta and stuff. So I knew that particular hospital really well. So when we walked in and said who we were, they started to walk us back to the room where they sit you down and tell you someone's passed, right? As soon as I saw us heading in that direction, I was like, oh no. I broke right, and I went in, and I saw the first set of curtains that were completely closed. And when I opened it up, my dad was laying there in his body bag. His head was exposed, and he had his ET tube just sticking out of his mouth. And they leave all that stuff in there for the autopsies. But basically, he had a massive heart attack in between. He was crossing the street, and he was in between 2 parked cars that were parallel parked. And as he passed in the middle, that's where he had the heart attack. So nobody saw him. And a lady that was coming down to get in her car, noticed this body laying, at the back end of her vehicle, called 911, but it was too late. I mean, he was 46 years old. You know what I mean? Like I just passed up his age. It's crazy to think that, he died that early in life, and he was one of the smartest dudes I ever knew. But yeah, it was, just horror. I was getting my trident. It was the 4th of July demonstration that we used to do in Coronado. And I was going to be one of the divers that comes up out of the water and walks out into the crowd, and all that. And it was just like, so now every time we're approaching 4th of July, I'm always like, oh man, it was just a horrible, horrible moment. Right. But, we all have to face that at some point in our life, but my dad just had to face it a little too early.
Oh, man, I'm so sorry. That is crazy. Jeez. And then you're at this SAS Australia thing, and people are coming in saying the same. I mean, that's just,
Yeah, it was an eye opener that, we all have our struggles. We all have, stuff that happens, you just got to figure out how to get through it and keep driving forward,
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And it's, I noticed that same thing. I hadn't really thought about it before because it was my first experience in Hollywood, but, 350 people on this set for, let's say, 5 months. And they have lives going on, and they have family members passing away. They have family members getting sick. They have all these issues. So you have, a showrunner, in this case, David DiGilio, who is managing the show, but as a leader, you're also, just like as a platoon commander, a troop commander, a chief, a troop chief, like you're still involved in the personal lives of all these people on set. Because yes, it's a job and it's a profession and everybody's operating at the, the highest levels, but at the same time, they have lives going on, 350 of them. And, and so I really did think about that on set, because everyone there is so specific in what they do that if they're missing for a day, like that Lamborghini that's flying down the track is going to need to pull over, and need to get worked on before it can get back on the track. It's not like, my Chevy's ratting a little bit, whatever, we're just going to keep pushing forward here. It's not like that at all. And so, so I just hearing you tell that story, I just reminded me of that it's a profession and these people are making a show, but it's also intensely personal, especially one like you're doing with SAS Australia, where you are intentionally putting these people in a position to wear them down and make them vulnerable to share things that maybe they've never shared before. And then to capture that on camera. And it's not just them, but it's you guys in the room because you're bringing life experience to it as well.
Right.
That part is fascinating. Golly.
It has its own highs and lows for everybody involved, but that's what makes it such a great and addictive show because it is 100% real from beginning to end. I mean, everything from, the tasks that we're giving them to those moments in the interrogation room, it's all real. There is nothing, and there's absolutely no one saying cut or, hey, can you say that again?
Right.
I mean, none of that. Like, if you say something stupid, guess what?
Right. It's on there forever. I know that's rough. That's why, in podcasts like this, you kind of can let your guard down because even if we don't edit it, which, I can imagine that we would ever edit it. But in your head, hey, like if I go off the rails here and say something crazy, well, we can take it out. Or in a few minutes, I can go back and say, hey, when we were talking a few minutes ago about X, Y, or Z, I don't think what I said came off quite right. What I meant to say really was this. Like you can correct it. You know what I mean? Because it's a conversation and it's more relaxed. But if you're like on that you did, or you're not going to recapture that moment. Like you pull that hood off, you ask these questions. Like that's the moment. You're not being like, okay, get back in character because they're real. But like if you're on like Tucker Carlson or something, and you have 1 minute and 30 seconds, and you're in that chair and you're staring at this screen that you can't even see the host because it's just, I don't know why. It's just this black screen. You can hear them, but you can't, there's no body language. There's no cues, there's none of that. So you're just staring at this black screen and you have 1 minute and 30 seconds. And then they ask you this question and maybe they frame it in a way, or maybe the guest before you answered what they said they were going to ask you. And now they just throw something out there that you haven't prepared for. And you just gotta, that what you say is live. 6 million people are watching and it's out there forever. So that's just the added stress, it's like the added, whereas you don't have that stress in a conversation like with us, but when you're thinking 6 million people, 1 minute and 30 seconds, I'm staring at a black screen. Okay. This is a controversial issue anyway. And then they throw something at you kind of sideways. It's like, it's just, this is much better. I like this. I like this much better, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. But, man, in doing that show, were you ever like, this is a little dangerous. Like, man, how long has it been since I did, the fast rope or whatever you guys are doing? Like, it might've been a couple of years. If we had that manual or get on YouTube real quick, like, were you ever like, man, this is a little dicey.
Yeah. Multiple times a day. It was so funny. It was Dean and I both, cause like we're the new guys on the show. Right. And so we'd always go to Ant like, hey, are we're going to rehearse this? And no, mate, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Right. I mean, it's typical like team guy mentality between the four of us. Like we'll figure out how to get through this when the time comes. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Right.
I love it.
And so I remember they're like, hey, Clint, we got this big aircraft fuselage and we're going to just crash it into the water. It's going to flip upside down. And then you need to demonstrate how to get out. And you're going to be seat belted in and blah, 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 blah. So, it's helo dunker stuff.
The worst. I hate the helo dunker.
It's different because the water is like, you can't see 2 inches in front of your face. So it doesn't matter if
you have a blacked out mask on or not. You're like, you can't see anything anyway.
Yeah. And they're using like this weird water reserve that's high in sulfur. So I was like, can I open my eyes in this or what's the deal? They're like, yeah, go ahead. And I'm like, go ahead. Like, did you test it? Like, no, you're the first one. I'm like, oh, okay.
Did you open your eyes?
Yeah, I opened my eyes. It didn't burn. I was actually surprised. And, your seat belted in. I'm kind of going through the motions again. Like, okay.
Find your, what is it? Find your reference point, right? Find a reference point.
Yeah, all your index points, right?
Index points, okay.
Because everything's going to be upside down and backwards by the time. And I just gotten out of quarantine. This was the first thing I'm doing, right?
Oh.
So first the fuselage goes into the water. The water was freezing cold and you got cameras on you. And I'm sitting there going, oh yeah, this is going to be televised. So I got to like pretend the cold water doesn't affect me because I'm a SEAL.
Right.
So I'm trying to keep a straight face, even though I'm trying to like, freak out. But anyway, and then it gets down, then it flips over. You wait until all movement stops, go through the procedures, unbuckle, find your index points, make your way towards that little glim piece of light that represents a doorway, go through the door, go to the surface, thumbs up, you're good to go. Somehow, all of our training, if you've done it long enough, like you and me, 20 years plus, it's there, right? And so it all came back and everything was fine. And then same with like, there was this huge rappelling deal we did. And, some things got backwards. Like once we were out there on these cliffs and they're like, hey, Clint, teach them real quickly how to get in their harnesses, this, and that. And it was funny that Hearst Master piece just came out. Like all of a sudden I'm like,
okay.
The most important aspect is putting on the, when you buckle down the waist, red is dead. Make sure you double it over when you're doing your harness. Make sure the harness is above your iliac crest, because if you flip upside down, that's what's going to prevent you from slipping out of your harness. All that verbiage just started coming out of my mouth. Right.
Wow.
And then afterwards, I'm kind of like, wow, I actually pulled that off. It's every single day, multiple times a day, either because you're having to demonstrate it or because you're having to teach it. You're constantly kind of going, okay, I hope I still remember all this stuff. But sure enough, it all works out.
Oh my Lord. What's, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I think I saw on one of the guys' Instagrams a video of that rappelling. And I remember thinking, wait, that looks dicey. I remember that stands out to me. But man, the helo dunker training was one of my worst experiences just because of how uncomfortable it was. Like I did it and everything, but it stands out over those 20 years as being a very uncomfortable evolution. And that's in a pool. And you can see when you do the one during daylight and then you put on this mask, as you remember, and it's all blacked out and you're doing it at night. But that thing hits and it rolls. And like you said, you settle, but like sitting here, I can go, okay, index point. There it is. Okay, check. My belt's here. Check. Simple enough. 2 things. Grab. There's the door or the window. Pull, and I'm out. Right. As soon as I dropped, that thing hit and went upside down. Done. My takeaway was that if I go down in a helo in the water and it flips and sinks,
it's tough.
Oh my gosh, that is awful. So imagine doing it how you're doing it in this freezing cold water with cameras on you. You're the SEAL guy, and boom, it drops, it flips over, and you're thinking back to all these years ago when you actually did it. Oh my gosh, how did the contestants do, or I don't know if you call them contestants or not, but how did how did they do when it came?
The recruits, the recruits overall, do a great job. Some of them are like, screw it. And they just go out the closest window that was close to them.
Yeah. Those are the smart ones. And just get out of here.
Right. And of course, that's just an opportunity to yell at them. Once the evolution started, my job, I was the actual guy in the water. So I was like the safety guy. So I'm always.
Did you have a safety guy when you did it? Did you have a diver down there?
Yeah. There's
a
diver in the aircraft at the front watching you.
Okay.
Which was Dean, right?
Okay.
That was his job during that evolution. Then I'm the guy on the surface, pulling people out of doorways when they got stuck, and making sure to bring them to the surface. So me and him both were having to literally save people a couple of different times, but for the most part, they all made their way out through the proper door. But I got to say, there was times I was scared for him because I'm like, this is not like, there was no big brief. There was no rehearsals. It's just throw them in the plane. It crashes into the water. It flips upside down. And, so for me, being a safety guy in that position, you're kind of like, holy crap, I got to be on my toes, right? So most of the time, as soon as that fuselage would roll, I'd take a big breath. And then I would go down, get right by that doorway. And even though the visibility was limited, I just wait for those glimpses of movement. And then sometimes I'd have to go inside, grab them and drag them to the door and then push them up to the surface because you could tell they just didn't know where they're going or they panic or whatever. But even as the safety guy, it was definitely high stress.
Wow. And that's a lean staff, having Dean in scuba gear in the front. You're pulling people out. You just tested it for the first time. Like, that's a lean staff right there. And you're feeding these people, what'd you say, some lettuce and a little bit of ground beef, like low overhead, except for your flight. Your flight, that's probably why they needed to do that, because your flight was probably a little bit costly. Man, what an incredible experience. Has anybody gotten hurt? Really hurt on any of the seasons?
Yeah, we had some injuries in ours, nothing major, but they had I can't speak to them because I wasn't there, but their previous seasons certainly like some close calls. Yeah. And I got to be straight. I mean, it sounds like we're just winging it, but the safety piece is number one. So when it comes to safety items, we were very serious about it. Yeah. The four of us, no doubt about it. Right. I mean, you're double checking every little thing. Yeah. And then after that, it's really, now you're just controlling performance, right? Wow. You're controlling your performance, you're controlling their performance. So if they're dropping off a little bit, you're there to kind of get on it and make sure they're good. So even though it sounds like it's very last minute kind of winging it, we have plenty of time where it needs to be serious to be very serious and make sure things are there. But when you watch it, it may not look that way. Yeah.
What a cool experience, man. What a cool experience.
Yeah, it was great, man.
That is really,
what was cool is the camaraderie. Cause I've noticed since I've been out, I've 100% missed working with that team environment and being with the guys. And it wasn't until I showed up there that I was like, I'd never laughed so much in my life, right? Hanging, we're all just having fun with it. And you just didn't notice that 18 hours a day and in 15 days straight went by like that.
Right.
And you're just like, man, I miss that. Right. I mean, it's no different than being in a troop or, part of your little fire team. It's like it's you and your buddies and you're getting it done every single day. And you don't even notice that 30 plus days at an island went by in blazing heat, or an entire 6-month deployment went by and you're like, holy crap, we did that. We survived that, super cool. And I just realized that at the end of the day, that was it's a missing ingredient in my post-career life is having the guys around you. Like, I work kind of alone for most of my stuff that I do, kind of like you to a certain degree, right? Writing books, you're alone. Yep. It's and then any of the other projects I have going on, I'm alone. I don't have a team in here with me at my shop. It's me. And I realized, like, man, I kind of needed that. It came at a good time to kind of re-energize me.
Man, and you work with a solid crew. I've had a lot of those guys on the podcast, and we've stayed in touch with each other and have plans to link up in person. And they seem like such a solid crew, especially for doing something like that. And before I get to your book, I just want to ask one more thing about this SAS experience in Australia. But every day is there like one major evolution, like one big test type of a thing, and then so each day what's coming. Like, hey, we got this. Here comes the aircraft fuselage thing. Okay, tomorrow it's the cliffs. The day after that, it's, I don't know, surf passage or whatever you're doing. Is every day like one major event like that?
It's two major events each day.
2 a day. Dang.
Yeah, and then so in the middle of all that, so like for example, on on the fuselage day that afternoon was the beehive, right? And I was running that evolution. Remember the beehive from Buds?
Yes. So yeah, in the pool, right?
Right. Just claustrophobia.
Yeah.
You got full kit on and you feel like you're drowning.
And everybody's around you, right? Doing their, like every.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You put on masks, you make them fill up water, their mask with water, and then you force everybody tight together. And before you know it, everyone's drowning each other. And that's what happened. And they freaked out, the producers. Even when it was all said and done, they came up to me like, Clint, we thought for sure somebody was going to die. Good job.
Wow.
So it was like, so they have fuselage and then they had beehive. And then in the middle of that, there are rules that are built in. Like number one rule is you always have to have dry fatigues. And they're only issued 2 sets of fatigues. So when they're not in the middle of an evolution, they're all standing around a 55-gallon barrel that they have to keep a fire going 24/7, and they're all drying out their clothes, right? Wow. They're all butt naked, drying their clothes out, right?
Wow.
And it's male, female, and they're on camera, right?
Wow.
So they spend a lot of time drying their clothes because when they show up to their next evolution, they show up to the grinder, they're in formation with their 47-pound rucks on, ready to go, and they better be dry every single time. And so they spend the nights also drying their clothes out, and that's where sleep deprivation kicks in, right? So they have their tasks around the camp. They got to keep the camp clean. They have to keep the galley clean. They have to keep their berthing clean. They have to make sure that their clothes are dry. They have to make sure that their latrines literally are your old school shitters, right? They have to basically sawdust and bag up their poop every single day.
Wow.
You know, they are living and breathing a World War II style barracks, right? No modern technology at all. There's no showers. There's no showers. There's just a bucket of water, right? And it's outside right in front of the camera. So they have to strip down naked and take a shower with a bucket of water.
Oh my!
I mean, it's insane, man. And
does anyone quit first day?
What's that?
Does anyone ever quit like first day?
Oh yeah. First day. There was a pop star. She had like a huge hit globally. I don't even remember her name at this point, but you know, she was like, I'm out of here. Like, this is bullshit. Like,
had she not watched the show? I wonder. It's kind of like those people that show up in Buds and quit the first day. You know, like, did you not do any research into this? Did you not like watch one YouTube video, especially today? Why is this a shocker to you?
Yeah, no, they quit like flies, man. It's like, oh yeah, the system works. Even in 14 days, the attrition rate was exactly the same as Buds or, you know, SAS selection. I mean, you know, you start with 20 and you end with 3, right? In 14 days.
Yeah. What's their incentive to keep going? Like they were like their followings or like their.
Well, it's the incentive is, I believe there's a payment program. The further they make it, the more money they make. But ultimately, they just want to be able to complete it. Okay. Right. As a celebrity, they want to be able to check the box. I took it all the way to the end. I didn't quit.
Huh. So, okay. It's not like they're going to go to the SEAL teams after that. They're not going to SAS and going to operate overseas and kick in doors and jump out of planes. So I'm just kind of, curious what that incentive is. Interesting.
Yeah. Rite of passage, for themselves, for their fan base, whatever it is, it's like, they just want to see if they've got what it takes,
Dude, I tell you what, that's missing in society today is that crucible is, test at that test. Because unless you seek it out, unless it's inherently within you, which it is, I think, in most of us, but it just gets kind of tamped down a bit because going through a crucible has been part of gaining acceptance into society from the beginning of time. And only recently have you not had to do that. Unless you seek out Marine boot camp, you seek out Buds, you seek out the Q course, these different things that are going to test you in life. And maybe you don't even know that it's something that has been going on from the beginning of time for people that are ages, let's say, 16 to 20 or whatever it is, to test themselves, gain acceptance to that society, become a member of that society, and and have a shared experience with others in that tribe, in that society. Like there's something to that. And I think maybe a lot of people, when they get older and realize they missed that, when they take a breath and kind of look back on life and become a little more introspective, maybe, and think, oh man, I wish I'd joined the military or whatever else. It might not be just that joining the military for service, but it might be that test to see, could I have done it? And maybe that's where it ends in their head, but really it's the, could I have done it to become an accepted member of this tribe, a productive member of this tribe, a productive citizen in our modern society. But it's interesting. So I think maybe there is a little bit of that in there, whether they know it or not. Because why would you at age 40 as a pop star or 30, whatever, decide to then test yourself? It's because, well, maybe you really didn't think about it or didn't listen to that calling at age 16, 17, 18, 19. So maybe that, I think there's a little bit of that in these shows, provides them.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I think you're right. I think we even see it like with, some of our fellow team guys that run these like team building events. You get a lot of people signing up for it because they just want to know, like, can I pull this off? Can I do it? Or it's internally, like they just want to go through something very difficult to test their will, so that on the back end they come out maybe a better person or learn to appreciate the things they have in their life. Because as you know, buds, I mean, being cold, wet, and sandy for 6 months straight makes you really appreciate, the smallest little things. Or a deployment, right? Yeah. You go on a deployment, you come back to the States, and you're like, oh my God, whatever it is. It could be for some people, it's like a burrito from their favorite taco shop down in IB.
Right.
You're like, oh, I've missed this, I didn't realize how good it was. It's so I think everyone has their own approach and reasoning, but I personally feel everyone needs to do it. And it kind of anchors to a quote that I can't remember if I heard it or if I coined it, but it's, very few serve, but most serve themselves. Right. And every person at a certain age may realize, like, wow, all I've been doing is serving myself my entire life, right? Which is a majority. Yeah. They just look out for themselves. They don't look out for anyone else, and they don't go serve for the greater good. Yeah. And I think it's those that when they have that moment, that's also a reason to go test themselves and maybe try to go do something that's beyond them, And I think it's important everyone goes and does something beyond them, even if it has a selfish outcome. You know what I mean? I think it's just a good thing to do.
Yeah. No, there's something about that test that's important as far as, your life journey.
Lieutenant Commander James Reese, can you outline the details of your mission?
Watch your back! This was a targeted attack. My timeline is a little fuzzy, but they knew we were coming.
Headaches, paranoia, memory confusion.
It was a setup. Still think I'm losing my mind?
It's David versus Goliath.
Which one is Reese, David or Goliath?
I'm still working that out.
Man, this book, Rugged Life, Modern Guide to Self-Reliance. So you have a bunch of books out now. What was timely about this one? And I don't know if it factored in COVID, civil unrest, contentious election cycle and political season, people moving out of the cities, realizing that, hey, maybe when I call 911, someone might not be there. And coming to this realization, which is most of human history, you've not been able to call 911. Most of human history, you've had to step up and protect yourself and your family and your community. But now we're accustomed to it. We can outsource that. Same thing with the military. Same thing with putting food on the table for yourself and your family and your community. Very slim portion of human history have you been able to go to the grocery store and just assume that there's always going to be things on the shelves. And there's a little bit of wake up call there, especially at the beginning of COVID. A lot of uncertainty there. But did that play into this being the next book you were going to write, or was it just you saying, "Hey, I'm gonna put together some of these lessons, and I'm interested in getting better at some of these things myself." Or what kicked this one off for you?
Yeah, the rugged life is really all of the above of what you mentioned. It was I 100 Daily Skills. I love learning new things. I love throwing out the infotainment of it all so that it keeps safety, security, and survivability at the forefront of people's mind. Some of it is usually boring, and I try to make it creative, even sometimes taboo, with how to dispose of a body and the kind of the fun stuff I've added into the books over the years. But ultimately, it's to get people thinking and give people a resource that they can leverage. Even if they don't go do any of it, at least they've got it on their shelf. It's tangible, it's real, it's a book. The power goes out. They've got something they can reference. But Rugged Life definitely was bred out of the pandemic, right? Yeah. Toilet paper shortage right off the bat told me, wow, this country has no idea how to survive.
That's what we're worried about. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you mentioned everything else. The virus was the direct cause, but we had dozens of indirect effects, right? Yeah. And that was supply chain issues, economic downturn, all of the social unrest, people moving out of the cities going, all right, I want to be independent again. Forget this, Right. And I realized, I've been providing skills where you survive seconds, minutes, hours, and days. But I really hadn't provided something that tells people how to just kind of make it a lifestyle, right? Yeah. Projects that actually lend to your daily nutrition, your hygiene. These are basic things that every American used to do and used to know how to do, but we've kind of forgotten it. I call this, even though it's called Rugged Life, it's like lost dad skills, because there's a lot of dads not teaching things anymore. And so this book kind of supplements what a father may not have taught their kids. Yeah. And so anyway, I wanted to be able to put something out there that kind of gave a broad overview of different aspects of a self-reliant lifestyle, and self-reliance in itself kind of insulates you from global crisis, right? The more reliant you are, the less all these things we've been dealing with actually affect you. Right. Because you'll be like, supply chain issues doesn't affect me. Yeah. I make my own shampoo.
Yeah. I make my own goat cheese for the salad that I just grew in my greenhouse. I mean, I love this book. This thing is awesome. You sent me an early copy, which is right here behind me to take a look at. And then this one is the actual copy. But man, I love this. And I love the bees. I think I'm going to have somebody, because I put honey in my coffee, and so does my protagonist in the novel. But I think I'm going to have somebody come up and teach me and make sure I put them in the right place and do all that stuff and get the. Yeah. But my wife has already told me, she's like, all right, if you're on book tour or whatever else, she's like, I'm not dealing with the bees. I can't call and say, go get the honey out. I'm not doing it. So, but that's always been fascinating to me. But there's so many cool things in here, talking about the different kind of rabbits. And I mean, I love this book. It'd be a great thing for a dad to take out and hey, one a week. We're going to cover one thing a week, and there's projects in here. I mean, this thing is goats right here, chicken. I mean, all of this stuff is let's say 1875. Guess what? You didn't need this book because you had to know how to do everything in here in order to survive. And all those things were passed down. It was just a normal part of life. Particularly on the frontier, if you were heading west. But man, this thing is fantastic. Look at this shipping containers building. I mean, it's fantastic. And I love the calendars, that you have, although I don't know if you still have them or not, but those calendars you pull off every day with that, how to dispose of a body today. I love the cards, everything that you do. I'm a huge fan of all of it. But when you were doing this, what stood out to you the most as far as, oh man, I really need to work on that? Or what did you incorporate into your life from doing this research?
Yeah, I think what the realization I had is that you have preppers, and really a prepper buys stuff and stores it, waiting for the apocalypse, right? And the beauty of when you actually go visit people who are on grid, off grid, as part of my research, Even our mutual friend, Bill Rapier, right?
Yeah.
I went, hung out, had the pleasure of hanging out with his family, and I reference him in the book pretty regularly because they do a lot of self-reliance stuff. I went to several other families. All of them have a different way of doing things, but they're all doing what I think everyone should have at least a backup plan to do, right?
Yeah.
Primary, I'm by no means saying, hey, buy some land, build your own house, buy some chickens and some goats. What I'm saying in this book is have the knowledge, have the skills as a backup plan or as an option to your primary. Your primary is, I'm going to go on Amazon. I'm going to have it delivered to my door. I'm going to go on the Starbucks app, and then Starbucks is going to be ready before I even get there, right? Those are great primary, but what's your backup? What's your other option? And most people don't have that. And so what I learned traveling was like, whoa, like they've got it all figured out, right? Like they've got their own water sources. I can't even imagine, like, okay, you have off grid, like imagine a world of no grid. We hear on grid, off grid, but imagine no grid at all. Like what happened here in Texas, a couple of winters ago where the entire grid failed. So now all of a sudden, you don't have a backup plan, like you're screwed. And that's why there was deaths during that. You know what I mean? Like we had multiple deaths across the state because people didn't have the other option or the backup plan figured out. So the Rugged Life is all about giving you that broad spectrum, holistic approach to backup plans and other options. And that's what I realized the most is everyone, these homesteaders, that's their primary. So that's why nothing will ever affect them. And that's when I realized, whoa, I don't even have that. I rely on the grid. Yeah. And I didn't have a backup plan. So now I do. It's like, hey, I know that 1,000 square foot roof with gutters on it with 1 inch of rain will collect over 600 gallons of water for free. Wow. Right? I put the mathematical equation in there. So you can go out and do the square footage of your roof, plug that into the equation, and then you'll know how many gallons of water your roof collects in 1 inch of rain. And who would have thought, right? 1,000 square feet, 1 inch of rain, 600 plus gallons of free water. Wow. All you got to do is figure out how to contain it. But you don't have to figure it out. I put it in the book. So,
so get the book. Don't tell anybody. They got to get the book. If you want to survive, you'll get this book.
I was fascinated by that. I was like, whoa, I didn't even know that, right? 600 gallons of free freaking water.
Amazing. I mean, smoking meat. We're doing that right now outside. Hey, I'm wearing the shirt. Kansas City Meat Company, cattle company. We're smoking some meat outside right now. A Wagyu brisket out there right now. Actually, it's on the smoker.
Ooh. But that sounds good, buddy.
Yeah, man. But I love all this, and it's a great thing for pick one for dads to do with their kids. I think it's great there. I'm gonna try to do some of these things with my little guy when he gets back from camp. The root cellar, I love that. I mean, gosh, so much cool stuff in here, and I love this right here. The 3 basic skills: knowing how to build, knowing how to farm, knowing how to hunt. Like that's most of human history. Like you've got to be able to do those things and defend yourself. Otherwise you're not going to be around much longer. Gosh, amazing. So cool. And did you read, is there an audiobook of this?
There is. Yeah.
Did you read it?
Read it. And as you know, that's a freaking torture. Well, I don't know if you've read yours, but I've read mine. It's a torture chamber of nightmares. I can't stand it.
About an hour ago, I did my first read in the closet over there. We hung, clothes everywhere to absorb the sound. We got the mic set up in there, and I read the new foreword. Actually, this right here. I read the new foreword that I wrote for the Terminal List. So this one came out with Chris Pratt on the cover. The hardcover.
That is so cool.
Crazy.
That's when you already made it a long time ago. But that's that right there. What you're holding in your hand is your own book with a major Hollywood star on the front of it. It's like, yeah, you've made it.
Well, I never think of things in those terms, but I sure am appreciative of everything. Yeah. That's for sure. But I wrote a new foreword for it, how the book came to be, and how the series came to be. So I wrote that, and then just the other day I was like, hey, you know what? I should maybe read that. And so we set it all up in here and just recorded it just right before I jumped on with you. And dude, it's tough. I wrote it. And I'm like, and you get to a name and you're like, oh man, have I been pronouncing that person's last name wrong for the last year or 2 years? And you're like, trying to figure it out. The director is on the other end of the line, trying to look up like an interview on YouTube to see how they're saying their name. And, so there's that. And man, it's just saying the P's into the mic and just stumbling around. Like it is, I am going to call Ray Porter, who reads my books. He's the narrator. I'm going to call him later today and I've thanked him profusely over and over again, but I'm going to let him know now I realize how hard it is. And then especially when I throw in a bunch of military acronyms or I have a character with say a Russian accent, but I don't mention it till paragraph 2, or something like that in the conversation.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to call him and be like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Like it is so tough to be in that room by yourself, just reading and scrolling. And, it's just, yeah. So anyway, so you've read all your books.
I've only read 2 of them.
Okay.
But I gotta say, like, I can't stand it. It's
tough.
So for me, what they'll do is they'll contract a studio here in Dallas.
Yeah.
I'll go to that studio. You sit in a sound booth. You have your sound producer or engineer.
Yeah.
On the other side of the wall, there's a window so you can see each other. You're sitting in a chair. They've got an iPad set up with your manuscript, microphone, and everything is, they nuke it, right? Your mouth has to be the same exact distance from that microphone the whole time. And you're talking 8-hour days for 5 days straight, right? And then you have 2 other producers that are in your ears, right? That are locked in from New York, right? For this book, it was Penguin Random House, right? Okay. So they're on and they're listening to every single word you say. Yeah. And if you don't pronounce it, then they go, stop.
Yep.
Can you start from the top again? You'll start reading. And then, no. We just need you to, can you just go ahead and go do the whole page over again?
Wow.
And so every couple of seconds you're getting, and then what you mentioned, pronunciation. Mm-hmm. Like this one guy I had, man. And here I talk about, how women can make their own female products, right? In the Be Your Own Homemaker section, Be Your Own Homemaker covers female products, shampoo, all the things you can make from coconut oil, for crying out loud. It's awesome stuff. But this guy was like, I need you to pronounce, I've always said menstruation cycle. So he's like, no, menustration. And I'm like, menustration? Like that doesn't even sound right to me. Menustration. I'm like, can I just say it my way? No, menustration. And finally, I don't even know how to say the word anymore because he totally screwed it up in my brain. So,
wow. Like I make a point never to, a point never to say that word. Like, so I don't,
I went through and I am really good at butchering words. So I was probably that guy's nightmare because I'm just horrible at pronouncing stuff. I kind of mumble through things.
No, you don't. I mean, you have a great voice. You have a great presence. Like I think you'd be like a dream narrator for your own work. Man,
not so much, buddy.
Well,
not so much.
I mean, I understand what you're saying because it's uncomfortable in there. You're reading, and then some easy sentences I was messing up. Like, how do I keep messing this up? Going back. Or I have put like in this one in this. I talk about all the terrorist events of the 80s, really that were impactful to me, and there were a lot. And I just have these commas in there, breaking all of them up, essentially from 1979 to 89. I think is what I cover, and I'm reading them, and I'm like, I'm not in the best shape of my life right now, but I should be able to read a paragraph without getting out of breath,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, God.
That's funny.
But I have a lot more respect for people that read their own work because if they haven't done it before, they're probably in for a wake-up call when they sit down and realize how difficult it is to go through a 80,000, 100,000, 120,000 word manuscript and read that and how much time it takes, especially when you're dealing with the pronunciations or whatever else. And then, oftentimes in my books, I don't even know how to pronounce some of the names. I read it, like I look up, okay, I need a Russian name, or I need somebody with from Iran, okay. And I'm looking up these different names and seeing what's going to fit, but I don't pronounce them. I see them visually. And I say, okay. And then I look at, okay, he doesn't want this to end in the same letter as this other character over here or start there. Okay, I'll use this and that. But I don't say it. So then when you actually say it, it's a different deal because you got to make sure you're saying it right.
Right. You're no doubt. And what's funny too, and I know you've noticed this, is what you write may read well, but it may not actually speak well. Right?
Case in point, the title of my debut novel. For a year, I never said this out loud. I was just working on it. It looks great. The Terminal List. If you say the two L's together, they blend. So after the year of working on this thing, I finally say it out loud for the first time. And I'm like, the Terminal List. I'm like, wait, Terminal List. And I'm like, dang it. But I love the title. But when you say it, it's exactly what you said. It reads differently than it sounds if you're to say it, especially if you don't make the break. And, I always listen to the actors that are in their interviews for the Terminal List show on Amazon. And I'm like, how's Chris saying it? How is Taylor saying it? When they come up to say the name, I'm always like, I go in a little, listen a little closer, and they do a great job. Taylor Kitsch.
All you need is
you need a little pause. Yeah. Taylor Kitsch in particular is playing Ben Edwards is awesome at it. Like he was great. But if they haven't said it before, only read it in a script, and you get on set and they're doing their lines and everything and never said it, but then they're in the interview and they have to say it as part of the press junket. I'm always like, who's going to say it in a way that, who's going to recognize that these two L's are together and not be shocked. It is an interesting experience to do the reading. That's for sure.
It is, man. Hard work.
Yeah, no, crazy. And then you also have the podcast. So you're used to, sitting down. You have a lot of episodes of the podcast out. I think it's awesome. I love it. You're crushing it. You have great guests on there. You have great questions. You put people in scenarios. So it's, it's different than just sitting down and having a conversation. That's a huge component of it. But then you also have these scenarios in there. So how's it working on the podcast?
Yeah, it's doing good, man. As you know, like I said, at the beginning, my job, I feel like since retirement has been, how do I deliver safety, security, and survivability in a fun, entertaining way that keeps it at the forefront of everybody's mind, especially with active shooters and everything that's going on in the world. It's like, I feel like just continuing that through the podcast is just a variant in a different medium, obviously, than writing books or for what I do for my corporate clients. Right. And so far, it's a 90-minute, kind of format. The first part is the rapid fire, which you've gone through. I try to make that fun and I try to customize it to the guest. The second part is who you are, past, present, and future, so that we get to know the person. And then the third part is the game, right? It's a choose your own adventure, kind of A, B, pick the right answer or you die. And it determines whether or not you survive the podcast, why it's called, Can You Survive This Podcast? So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I enjoy it. And the beauty of it too is I don't need like big names, like I actually enjoy the more of the up and coming people that nobody knows about because they tend to have like these experiences that no one's actually heard before. It's like the first time they're talking about it, which is super cool to me. And that's where I get to learn even more. From my guests, if you talk to someone who's already done 1,000 podcasts, and the odds are you probably already heard the stories. Right. Yes. That means your listeners are hearing the story again for the 1,000th time, So I kind of enjoy getting people, especially the new ones. Like I've got a lot of folks from over in Australia that have been coming on. Like he's going to be the next world champion here in October. But, just having those variety of folks, that it's like super fun, super cool. And and the reason you do it, right? It's interesting and getting to know people and hearing their views on things. Yeah, it's fun because then you also get to put the phone down. I turn off, there's no computer in here beeping at me with emails. And it's just us, and very, very rarely these days do you actually do that. If we were to be together right now, going to grab a beer or whatever else, like we'd have our phones on us and someone would be texting about something. Yeah. And we'd be talking about, hold on. I can get back to that person, or, oh geez, I gotta take this one, or, whatever. I gotta respond to this just real quick. Hold on. So that's also why I like going on trips with the kids where there's no Wi-Fi and no cell service. So those are typically hunting trips, or those are getting to the bottom of a river canyon and going on a river rafting trip for a week. All your stuff is right there. River rafting is great because you can bring some of the comforts of home with you. It's not on your back. You have a big Yeti cooler there full of beer and wine and everything else. But you can have a great experience, and there's no threat of me looking at my phone for a second, having my little guy wanting to say something to me and me being like, oh, hold on one sec. I just gotta send this really quick. Like that doesn't exist. I know. So I love going hunting, and I love going to the bottom of the river canyons with the kids.
for that reason. But this is like an artificial version of that, because it forces us to put the phones down and turn the computers off, and we just get to hang out for a little bit and catch up.
Yeah.
And I knew you were doing the Australia thing, and I knew you were in quarantine down there. Had no idea about the crazy flight to get there, or exactly what you did on the show, because I haven't seen it yet. But I'm so excited to watch it, and I gotta get the VPN going again and go and watch some of these episodes. And then I hope it does come to the States, because it is a really cool format. And those guys are so interesting. And I think people over here are fascinated with the SAS and the SBS anyway. So I think it's a great combination to bring to this country.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's coming, and it'll be the, because now there's two teams, right? There's the UK team, with the two originals, Billy and Foxy are running that UK version. Meanwhile, Ant and Ollie and myself, and we're running the Aussie version. And my guess is there's going to be, that format will start to extend into the other countries with their special operation guys that represent that country.
Yeah.
That's where I see, just in my very elementary view of the whole thing, because it is such a great format. That's the key to success,
Oh man. Too cool. Too cool. And what else do you have going on? So the book is out. SAS Australia is coming out. You're still doing all your corporate security stuff. You got 100 Deadly Skills. You got all your businesses going. You got a lot going on. How do you prioritize anyway?
I don't know if it's as much. Yeah. It's like it's the same as you, right? You find yourself saying yes to a lot of stuff, and it's difficult to say no. I think I always connect it to the new guy mentality, right? You show up 15 minutes early, you stay late, you volunteer for everything, keep your mouth shut, and your ears wide open, right? And for me, I felt like a new guy all the way up until the day I retired.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then that same kind of mentality has continued out here, where I'm like, fuck, man, I'm like saying yes. Okay, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. And what happens though in this world is things start falling off the plate.
Yeah.
And so what I have done is backed off, and I try to focus now just on the things that I actually enjoy, the things that actually make you happy, and start cutting the fat really. And so since I've started doing that, it's starting to get more streamlined. I notice that I'm, actually more motivated to do stuff, because I don't know if you do, but I have my moments, man. This transition, it's up and down, it oscillates, and transition isn't a one-day thing. It's not a 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. It's constant, right? The pivot is in slow motion to kind of really truly be a civilian again. And so here I am, 6 years retired, and I still have those days where I'm kind of like, oh man, just get up, get your workout done, and get to work. And then by the end of the day, I'm back to normal again. I'm like, okay, all right, that was good. All right, wake up the next morning. Okay, let's do it again.
Interesting.
So I don't know. I don't know if you face any of that, but I have my moments. That's all.
Oh man, yeah. I think it's just I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I recognized it early on in life. And then when I got to the end of my time, because we got out at about the same time and been out about the same time. But I recognized it and was like, in my head, I made that transition. Like I was a, professional special operator, profession of arms. And now I'm not. Now I'm a professional writer. And even as I traveled to Mozambique a couple months after I got out to do the research for my second novel, even though I hadn't even set the first one to Simon & Schuster yet, they have that customs form, and I'm flying into either South Africa or then the flight to Mozambique. I can't remember which one, but it had that occupation line, and I wrote down writer or author. I have a picture of it on my phone, but was then on a hard drive, so not in the cloud. So I got to go find it in one of these hard drives somewhere. But it was like in my mind, and I got that from Stephen Pressfield in one of his books on creativity. Of course, he wrote Gates of Fire, Legend of Bagger Vance, Afghan Campaign.
Oh yeah,
those books on creativity.
Mandatory reading, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then The War of Art is the one that really kicks off his series on creativity. But he has one of those books called Turning Pro, and really all of them kind of say the same thing in a different way. And that's, hey, sit down and do the work. And one of the books is actually called Do the Work. Don't procrastinate, sit down and do it. You have to do it. You might not succeed even if you do the work, but you definitely won't if you don't do the work. But in Turning Pro, he talked about making that decision very consciously to then become a professional at something. Like not, oh, I hope I can be a writer one day. I'm just going to dabble or like, no. And in my head, I'm like, okay, I can do that. I can flip this switch and I can leave the military and I can become a professional writer. And in my head, even though I've never published anything, I am now a professional author. So in my head, I thought of myself that way as soon as I got out. So I think the transition for me, I don't like the term easy, but it made sense.
It had more vision to it. Yeah. I think that's where you've done, obviously you're a very well-read guy, and a very well-read person usually makes for a very good author. You have to read in order to be good at writing. And I think that's the first piece. And I think I got that. My version of motivation for writing was Stephen King's On Writing.
Yeah.
It was one of the funniest books I've read, but it was also the way he spliced in how he writes books.
Yeah.
Was just phenomenal. Minus the lines and lines of cocaine and writing Cujo in 72 hours,
I do think about that sometimes when I'm exhausted. I know that's not the best lesson to draw. But if you realize, what was happening in his life at the time, you won't take that step. But sometimes I'm like, man, I'm exhausted. I'm like, Stephen King.
Yeah. Coffee is a much better alternative to cocaine.
That's what I've gone with actually. Coffee, Fruit Loops. Dr. Pepper and pretzels. Those are my secret ingredients. And also coffee in the morning, bourbon at night. But if you flip those two, then you maybe want to take a breath and like reevaluate some of your things you're into.
That was Stephen King. I don't think people know just how funny that guy is. The stories in that it still stands out to this day. I've read it like 3 or 4 times because some of the times was the entertainment value. The other time was like, what did he say again? Oh, right. 1,000 words a day. 1,000 words a day.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, 1,000 words a day. Do I really need to stick to that? Because
it's a very helpful guideline.
Sometimes I don't have 1,000 words to write a day.
I mean, it's a very helpful guideline for sure. That 1,000 words a day, no doubt about it. I probably need to read that book again now that I have these 5 books, working on the 6th. We had these screenplays and all that. I should probably read that book again and see if I take any other lessons from it. Because at the time I read it, same thing. I was reading it. Yeah, entertainment value, see what lessons I can pull, obviously. But the way he wrote that as essentially an autobiography was brilliant. And then you're right, when he gets hit by that van and he survives and he's on the side of the road and he opens his eyes and he looks up, the way he describes the person who hit him in the van, who's sitting on the rock. And I've only read it once, but I distinctly remember this. And this is like 15 years ago, I read it maybe. And he's sitting on a rock and he thinks, oh my gosh, I just got killed by a character from one of my novels or something along those lines. I'm reaching back in the memory banks here, but yeah, I mean, hilarious.
No, you're right.
Thank God he survived, but geez.
Yeah. And who would have thought, I mean, like the stories between him and his brothers. I mean, I literally laughed out loud. I don't laugh out loud with books. You know what I mean? Like that one made me laugh out loud, especially once he got into the cocaine Cujo 72-hour cocaine.
He doesn't remember writing it, right? Is that something else? Doesn't he not remember? Like, wow.
Or he would do these benders and like, the Green Mile, right? Like, and then put the manuscript in his drawer and then find it 2 weeks later and go, oh yeah.
I think he likes to do that anyway. He likes to step away, if I remember correctly, for a period of time and then come back to it. I think that's kind of part of his, his formula,
his process.
Journey. Process. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. He writes, he puts it away, comes back fresh a couple of weeks later, and then goes through his rewrite or his editing or whatever he's doing, and it's
right.
Yeah, there's a lot to be taken from that, as far as lessons, but that was definitely the standout guide for me. And I've always, anybody who says, hey, I want to write, how did you get started? I'm like, go read that book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a good one to go, and because it's entertaining. I need that entertainment way to learn. I can't just go write writing for dummies. Like, there's no way I can't read something like that, but if it's entertaining and it's telling stories, but blended in and it's teaching you something, dude, I'm sold. That wins for me every time.
Nice. And that's what you do. I mean, all your books are like that, and how many do you have out now? I mean, it seems like there's quite a few.
So let's see, 100 Deli Skills is 4, plus this is 5. I'm working on 100 Deli Skills. The next one come out spring of 23.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really, I think what I did is I said, hey, I'll just do I'd like to do, as long as it, people enjoy it, a book per year.
Yeah.
And just keep the skills going. That's I love learning them, and I love putting together and making it simple for people to grasp. That's the best part of it, is like, how do I make something complicated super simple for people to understand? I think that's the best part of the book, of putting it together.
Oh man. Well, man, thank you for writing these things. And thank you for always answering my call when I'm like, oh man, I need to know something about phones or breaking into this thing or that, and oftentimes before I call you, I'll go look and see if you've talked about it before. I'll go to one of your books, and then I'll be like, all right, James Reese can do that, and then I call you to check up and make sure nothing's happened in the meantime since you've written this, that you've learned and all that. Yeah. So man, thanks for always being so available and so helpful. And I sincerely appreciate it.
It's an honor to be part of the James Reese story. And I'm proud of you as a SEAL. I'm proud of you as a writer. Obviously, you're an inspiration to anybody who gets into this world, as taboo as it is to our community. I think you are now kind of changing the mindset. I hope that I am too, because I'm doing skills. You're doing these great fictional action stories. And I think the community hopefully can learn from that, hey, it doesn't always have to be like, telling war stories to make money. There's other, we can all write in different ways, and share our creativity, and hopefully be, still be respected by our peers. Cause as that's like a big deal for us. And it's, and the further you're out, or the longer you're out, the further you get away from like worrying about it,
right.
And I'm sure it's the same for you. Like, longer you're out, like whatever, if someone doesn't like what I'm doing, that's their problem, not mine,
Yeah.
But, yeah,
think about it on the way out. You certainly think about it on the way out, especially at the time that we got out with a lot of the controversies that were out there, a lot of things that were coming to a head at the time with SEALs in the limelight. But it was there, but I didn't want it to occupy my head as far as taking up bandwidth. I wanted all my bandwidth to go into making the story the best that I could possibly make it. So I put that aside, and it was still there a little bit. It's not there at all anymore. But in those initial days as I'm writing, because of that time frame in particular. So I did think about it a little bit, but at the same time I thought, you know what? I'm not going to let some admiral that I don't respect anyway dictate my next chapter in life, because I'm worried about a memo he's going to send to the rest of the SEAL community about me writing books, or someone writing books, or SEALs writing books, or special operators writing books. I'm not going to let him dictate the rest of my life. This is a passion, and I wanted to do this since I'm a little kid. I was a professional special operator, and now I'm a professional writer. This is what I do, and this is what I want to do. And I'm not going to let some admiral or some let's say a captain in the Navy, a colonel or something in the Army, like dictate my next chapter in life, because I'm worried that someone might not like it.
Right.
There's always going to be someone who doesn't like what you do. Like, no matter what you do, if you're out there and you put something out there to be judged, even if it's subjective, like the show coming out, like I said, there are people that have already hate it who have not seen it. So that's just a part of it. Yeah, it's with everything. Right. It's with everything. So you can't go through life scared. You get one ride on this planet. And I can either go through scared of what other people are going to think of me, or scared of what some memo from SOCOM is gonna say, or I can just embrace this next chapter in life, do what I love doing, and not let that memo or that person occupy any part of my brain, because what I owe my readers is the best story possible, because now they're trusting me with their time. They're never getting that time back. And so this story has to be the best it can possibly be for however long they're in the pages or they're listening to it. And that's something I take extremely seriously, because we do get that one ride, and people are trusting us with their time.
It's well said, man. And I try to follow the same principles. And I feel like you especially are turning the tables on it, because I think in a very short period of time, you're going to have those same admirals calling you going, "Hey, buddy, can you hook me up?"
It may have happened.
I think I know exactly. I think we're all talking about the same names.
It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting, that's for sure. And also interesting is that for these type of shows, you reach out to the military, and there's a Hollywood division of the Public Affairs Office from the Pentagon or something. And you reach out, not me, but the production reaches out and says, "Hey, we'd like to do something with like an Osprey, or like we use Camp Pendleton or something along those lines." And the Marine Corps was fired up to like help out one day. And then the next day, negative. Apparently, the Department of the Navy was not so thrilled that I blow an admiral up in his office in Coronado. So they did not help out with the publication, with the production of the Terminal List coming to Amazon Prime here. But I like that better, because then there's no strings attached, and it's back on you again. You're not reliant on anybody else except the team that you've put together to make this. And you're not like, the military is saying we can do this, but we have to then, kind of like they did with the Caine Mutiny back in the day with Humphrey Bogart. They put all these different restrictions on that production. I didn't want that. So when they came back and said, no, we're not going to help, I was like, typical, good, let's go do this. Let's do this on our own. So so that's kind of funny, but that's good,
awesome, man.
All part of the journey. All part of the journey.
Yeah, it is, man. Like they say, if 50% love you and 50% hate you, then you're doing it right. Right? Isn't that what they say?
I don't know if they say it or not, but there's certainly something to it, especially today when people are interested in the person behind the art, where there is are platforms available to reach out and connect separate from the actual product. Like 1985, if we wanted to reach out to an author, how are we doing that? Maybe we can find out about their book tour somehow because it's in the paper somewhere and we see it and they happen to be coming to our hometown, and we can then go down there as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 14-year-old. We can ask our parents, whatever, go down and we can maybe ask them a question and say, oh, that guy was really cool. Or he seemed really well informed when he talked about his book. Well, yeah, if you're not doing that, you had no connection to the person writing that book back then. But today, there is that connection. And if you walk too fine of a line, I think trying to please everybody and just worried, hey, if I tell you how I really feel about censorship, I might lose a certain portion of this audience. So I'm just going to walk this fine line, and maybe my character is not going to have these different views. He's just going to do the job and just be this part of it's just going to be the story. And for me, I'm like, I don't know anybody who doesn't have views on things. My protagonist certainly does, and he has strong views on certain things. And if that's going to upset people, which it does, if you read the negative reviews on Amazon, hey, that's part of life. But that also humanizes him, and I'm not going to walk through life afraid of what other people are going to think of my characters or of me. So, and that's very freeing. It's very freeing, but it also resonates because people respect that you didn't just try to walk a fine line and please everyone because, both, the right and the left buy books or whatever it is. You're a protagonist, and you as a person can think through these different issues and have opinions on them if you so choose. So there's that respect factor there too. I think that, but you didn't have an option. The point being, you didn't have an option in 1985. It was just the work. Today, it's more than that.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You're tearing it up, Jack.
Oh, man. Dude, thank you so much. Thank you so much for spending this time with me.
I got to say, Reese, okay, we can agree that he should have been an enlisted guy. I mean.
He started enlisted. He started enlisted.
You base it on you. But, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to think a commander is a meat eater, and come on, we know.
That's why I always put that sniper thing in there. So people that know are like, oh, and it's very intentionally in the first episode of the Amazon series, very intentional that an admiral says, prior enlisted SEAL sniper, worked your way up to troop commander. Because you can't just have a normal officer running around doing these things. He'd have no idea. I knew in the book, and I was kind of hoping that in the show, because all you see is the uniform. Yeah.
And every meat eater you and I both know are all enlisted guys, not officers.
I will say that I could not have written a character that's just an officer running around doing these things because it wouldn't be believable. Apologies to officers out there that maybe have taken the extra step and gone and trained on their own and are actually competent. But it was very important to be a prior enlisted SEAL sniper and to say that in the show. So that's for you. That's for you. And it's in episode 1.
Perfect. Thank God.
Man. Awesome. All right, man. Dude, thank you so much for everything you do, and love the book, love everything you have going on out there. And ways to contact you and follow you and all that will be in the show notes here. But man, thanks so much for everything. And I hope we can link up in person again soon. Been too long. So hopefully you'll pass through here, or I'll pass by your way, and we can link up and hang out a little bit.
Yeah, let's make it happen, brother. I appreciate you having me back on the show.
Of course.
And everything that you're doing. Continued success to you, and love it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, brother. You take care. See you soon. A special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Navy Federal Credit Union. I have been a member since 1996. They're is my cue card right there. Man, Navy Federal has been with me every step of the way while I was in the military for those 20 years. And now that I am out, and they've taken care of me, taken care of my family, and have had nothing but the best experience with them. So to have them sponsor this podcast is, well, it's humbling, and I'm honored. Becoming a member at Navy Federal Credit Union lets you experience more, from everyday commutes to your next big vacation. The flagship credit card earns you 3 times the points on travel, so you can get rewarded for wherever you're headed next. Plus, this premium travel card has a low annual fee of $49 and 2 times the points on all purchases outside of travel, meaning the rewards don't have to end even when the vacation does. Speaking of rewards, you can get a Navy Federal auto loan and reward yourself with a new car. Applying is easy. You can do it on their mobile app, online, or by phone, and it's so fast, you can get a decision in seconds. Navy Federal has great rates on auto loans. Plus, with their car buying service powered by TrueCar, you can shop, compare, and get upfront pricing on your next new or used car. At Navy Federal, members are the mission. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA. It is open to the Armed Forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families. Flagship rates are variable and range between 10.74% and 18% APR based on credit worthiness. ATM fees for cash advances are up to $1 at non-Navy Federal ATMs. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Message and data rates may apply. Visit NavyFederal.org for more information and to apply. I want to thank my friends at Black Rifle Coffee for sponsoring the Danger Close podcast. I've been a huge fan for the longest time. Drink Black Rifle Coffee every day. And if you keep your eyes peeled, you will notice that perhaps Chris Pratt is wearing a Black Rifle Coffee t-shirt, not unsimilar to this one, in the Amazon series adaptation of The Terminal List. Now you can go to blackriflecoffe.com/dangerclose and use code DangerClose20 at checkout for 20% off your purchase and your first coffee club order. Black Rifle Coffee, America's coffee. Keep crushing. All right, let's talk about 10,000.cc. So 10,000, awesome company. If you have tried their interval shorts or their tactical shorts, which these are right here, you know that you are not going back to anything else. These things are awesome. And I got a pair of pants from them recently too. And man, amazing. I've worn a lot of shorts over the years, obviously being a West Coast SEAL at Team 5 when I started out. So that was kind of the thing. But I have worn a lot of shorts, and these ones, hands down, the best. I mean, that's just how it goes. They were tested by over 50 special operations members in their testing phase. So it makes sense that they're awesome, but definitely try these out. Go to 10,000.cc, follow them on Instagram, same thing, 10,000.cc on Instagram. But go to the website, check it out. Super easy to order. There's not crazy amount of different options. So, and then there's packages on there as well. I mean, they just do a fantastic job in all that they do. Free shipping, free returns. Go to 10,000.cc/dangerclose for 15% off your order. You will not regret it. Welcome to the gear highlight portion of the Danger Close podcast. All right, I'm starting right here with the Courteney Boots. And if you've read the novels, then you know that Rafe Hastings is a fan of the Courteneys. This is what I wear when I go to Africa. This is a new set from African Sporting Creations. They are the only company that imports these from Africa. And right there, African Sporting Creations. Thank you to Jim for being such a dear friend over the years. And it's been great to get you to know you better over the last couple of years. Love what you're doing. And so cool. Love the knives. I mean, look at this. Check out these knives right there. Amazing. So here's the boots. These I have. This is my third set of Courteneys, or third pair of Courteneys, I should say. And look at that. What? Look at those bad boys there. Crocodile brown. Oh yeah. Such a cool history with this company. And for me, as I'm writing the characters and the storylines, I use gear, as you know, if you've read the books, to help develop the characters because it says something about them, what they're wearing, how they're wearing it, what weapon they're carrying, how they're carrying it says a lot about their background, their training, their mindset. And I use all of that to help develop these characters. Some people don't like it very much. Some people get very offended when I get specific on the type of holster somebody's using or the pistol someone's using. But you know what? That tells me a story about them in real life. And I use that to help develop these characters in the storyline. So right here, Courteney Boots, and it comes in a cool box, and you get these, the boot care package in here. And it comes here. You got some really, you can see that right there, but it's like newspaper type headlines. And then there's newspaper in the bottom, if it's the same as the other ones. And yes, there is, that harkens back to old school days in Africa. So there it is right there. Courteney Boot Company, African Sporting Creations. Check them out. Follow them on the socials. What else? I'll do this one next. Qalo Rings. Look at that right there. So I've been wearing this one right here. So rubber silicone ring from Qalo, Qalo, since 2017. I think I got this exact same one. And I'm a believer. My actual wedding ring is in the safe, and I have worn this, and I have rarely, if ever, taken it off since 2017. But you don't need to worry about pull-ups or anything else. It's awesome. And they have a whole bunch of different kinds right here. So Qalo, you can see that. It says Happy Father's Day right there. But they have all different sizes and colors and widths and all of that. Let's see what this one is right here. This one is another gray one right there. Oh, green. Ooh, look at that. So green one right here. But go check them out. Qalo. Check out what they have going on over there. They do a lot of support for first responders, military, law enforcement. They have a bunch of different rings. There's a gray one right there, but a bunch of different rings that correspond to those different professions. So very cool. And lastly, here we go. What is this? What? My first Swiss Army knife. Nice. So I just got this for our little guy right here. So his first Swiss Army knife, and he'll be getting this shortly. And yeah, very cool. I remember getting my first one as a kid, and so this will be his. So pretty cool. Thank you for tuning in to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. To find out more about Clint Emerson, go to ClintEmerson.com. Check out what he has going on there. Follow him on the social channels. Check out Escape the Wolf, and for sure, get his latest book right here, The Rugged Life. If you like this conversation, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me at Jack Carr USA on the social channels. OfficialJackCarr.com is the website. You can sign up for the newsletter there and go to JackCarrUSA.com for the merch. Until the next time, take care out there. Be safe, stay strong, keep fighting.